Now, I mentioned earlier that one of the big issues during the recent teacher strike here in British Columbia was the number of English as a second language students, or English language learners, that's the current euphemism, ELL students, in the classroom. And certainly in communities like Richmond, like Vancouver, and Surrey, and some other larger municipalities in British Columbia, there are more and more ELL students. Well, I want to talk to you about a program, an ESL program, aimed at adults that is in jeopardy because of budget cuts. And this is a program at Vancouver Community College. Karen Shortt is president of the Faculty Association at VCC and joins us now. Karen, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show.
Tell me about this. This is a pretty big ESL program.
It's huge. We're the largest in Western Canada. We train close to 50% of the English language students.
50%?
Adults, yes, we're huge. And we've been doing it for over 40 years, so we have quite a bit of expertise in the best way to do it.
Now, what is the big concern here? Because there have been some funding cuts.
There's been actually down to zero if this provincial government goes ahead with what they're planning.
Wow.
So it's critical at the college. We have 2,200 students who will not have classes to return to on January the 2nd, and it's going to cause a lot of grief to a lot of families, and it's going to impact the economy for years to come because people are here with degrees, diplomas, wanting to work, but without English language skills, they're stalled.
2,200 students. Why was that funding cut?
The funding is just, it's a muddle between the federal government and the provincial government, but the provincial government has a mandate, a responsibility to offer education to adults, and they're refusing to do it.
Originally, though, it was a cut from the feds, wasn't it? Didn't the province step up to sort of do some bridge funding there for a while?
Well, the funding came through a labor market adjustment fund, so the province should be funding this, and for years and years, we thought the province was funding it because it appeared through the Ministry of Advanced Education's budget. It went into the college's base fund, so it appeared in our base budget on a line for language studies, and for all intents and purposes, to us, that money came from the province for decades. So it was a surprise to us on April 1 of 2012 when the province said, well, actually, that funding will end in 2 years, and we're not going to pick it up. And we've been meeting and talking and promoting this cause and how important it is ever since. But it is down now at a critical point.
How much money would you need to keep the program going?
We would need about $11 million a year if there is no tuition charged. And this program had tuition attached to it until April 1 of 2012. So $8 million without tuition and $11 million $8 million if there is tuition and $11 million if not.
Why wouldn't there be tuition if we're talking about adults here who want to learn English to get jobs in Canada?
Well, that's debatable. People that come to this country, new immigrants, are, for the most part, very poor. They do not have the money to pay English language classes, and so they need some assistance to get themselves started. I would think of this simply as a loan, because when people start working or carry on and increase their income, they're going to be paying it back in income taxes. So I think this government needs to say, okay, this is a short-sighted decision we're making here. Fund the program, get people working, people that are unemployed or underemployed, and once they're working, they're going to pay it back in income taxes. So the tuition is only about 20% of the cost, and so tuition is something that was charged by the province until the federal government said you're not allowed to do that. That was the problem.
That was the problem. That's sort of the nub of the issue here.
It was, yeah. April 1 of 2012, it changed. It went to free status.
Because we know there are lots of private ESL schools all over British Columbia, and you see them pretty much on any major street in any major city. But so who are the students then that would have opted for the VCC program?
Well, just to go back first to the private schools.
Yeah.
The private schools offer very short programs, and they're basically for international students who come here for 7 or 8 weeks and then go home. The programs that the public schools offer, Douglas, Kwantlen, Camosun, and VCC, are for Canadian residents, immigrants, refugees, people that have come here and they're making their life here. They've committed to this province. This is now their home. And so when they come to the country, they have basic English language skills or whatever is required to come into the country. But when they get here, they need more. Sometimes it's just pronunciation, because you can learn a language in another country, but when you come here and the reality of it is you need more help than you thought you did.
Of course.
So to leave people high and dry, and actually the 2,200 is the January intake. For 1 year, Vancouver Community College has 5,700 English language students who will have nowhere to go.
Still, nowhere. That was my next question. So what happens to these students?
There is no answer, and I've approached Minister Verk on this. I've asked him what's going on, and he simply says, "Well, we liked it the way it was. We liked it when the Fed sent us the money and we put it through our budget, but that's not happening anymore. The federal government is still funding settlement English, which is the lower levels. But once a person gets past the lower levels English, they need academic English. They need English for professional purposes, and we have the expertise to do that, the curriculum, and there is nowhere else for people to go."
And as you say, that's not a good thing for obviously there are actual human interest here, but if you want to put it in economic terms, it's not good for the economy.
Anywhere, societal problems that will come from being unemployed, not being able to take care of your family, or if you have someone who's a trained doctor. We had a board meeting on Wednesday, and we had a doctor speak, and she wants to stay and she wants to work, but she needs some English language training. And we had another doctor go back to Iran because she could not keep up with the English. It was costing her too much, and she couldn't go.
And of course we like to portray ourselves as a very cosmopolitan place and a place that has compassion, that wants to take in people from around the world. What about some of the other colleges, Karen? Are they in the same boat? I think you mentioned a few others that offer similar programs.
That's a strange thing. Vancouver Community College being the largest provider, we're closing our doors if this goes ahead on December 17th. And Kwantlen, Douglas, and Camosun are actually keeping their doors open until the end of March. And we're very concerned with this because we feel it's inequitable. The government has given small signals that they are looking towards a long-term solution. And our first concern here is that VCC stay in the game, stay at the table, and continue to offer these programs until March while these talks are going on. So we think that's critical that the government look at this urgently and keep the programs open while the government searches, as they say, for a long-term solution. But that long-term solution can't be down to zero because that doesn't help any of us.
And time's ticking here if you're talking really just a few weeks away. Just before I let you go, Karen, we do have a caller on the line at 604-280-9898. Barbara in Victoria. Hi, Barbara.
Hi. A few years ago, I heard a gentleman call a talk show. He identified himself as a Chinese immigrant, and he said there is no way that the Canadian taxpayer should be required to pay for learning English. They should come with a working knowledge or at least be personally responsible for learning. Otherwise, stay home. And immigration is costing us $23 billion a year.
Where do you get that, Barbara?
That is a recent government statistic.
Well, I disagree. Immigration is enriching our country, and we have a skills labor shortage. We've been hearing about it. So to take
You're
the short
very
sight
ignorant
of saying that people should not be allowed to continue and have training, adult education is part of this provincial government's mandate.
It absolutely is. Karen, let me get one more caller on here. Yoram in Vancouver. Yoram, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, excellent. Beautiful day in Vancouver today.
Sure is.
It's incumbent upon the federal government and the provincial government to keep providing these services, to keep providing English language services both at a basic level and at a job skills level. I'm a certified house inspector. I'm also a pest control operator, and I see the language barrier as being a very large factor in my work as well. Trying to explain to somebody how to clean up for cockroaches, trying to explain to somebody how to do house maintenance, say like an offshore owner of a house, and they've got a rental manager, and they have to maintain the house. That rental manager might not have very good English business language skills either, especially around house maintenance and things like that. So you see houses, $1 million houses starting to fall apart. And you see, people not living, the way we to the sort of standard of living, Canadian,
right.
Cleanliness. I'm not trying to say anything about anybody. I'm just saying that in general, Canadian standard cleanliness, standard of cleanliness living, of how to, take care of certain things in their home so that they don't have these problems.
Well, I think, boiling what you just said down, Yorm, and Karen, that goes to what you said earlier, is that there is a benefit to all of us if we are helping people who otherwise may not be able to afford it to actually be able to communicate with the broader society.
Mm-hmm. And, I just want to say one final thing. I know you're closing off, but, one of the students on Wednesday who spoke, he said, I'm a computer engineer, and I don't mind cleaning toilets. I don't mind. I know I need to work hard. But he said, don't take away my hope. And that's what education is. It's the hope for the future. And I really ask this government to think about what they're doing, the hurt they're causing to families, to the economy. And if people want to express their interest and tell Premier Clark, go to our website, eslmatters.ca, and send a message. It's really easy to do there.
Karen, I'm going to ask you, there's just, if you don't mind sticking around, John is on the phone line. He has a question for you. Hi, John. Go ahead to Karen.
Hello. Will other departments be closed too when the ESL programs are cut?
Will other departments be closed?
No, the college will continue, but unfortunately, the ESL program closure will impact the programs that some of our students would have laddered into, hospitality, auto mechanics, heavy-duty diesel. We have students who are engineers, architects, who need some English in order to be able to work in the workforce, and so they come back, and quite often someone will be a doctor in another country, but they'll be a healthcare assistant here.
For sure.
So they need English language to pass the exams and to go back out into the workforce.
Karen, great to have you on the show. We'll follow this with interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is
bye-bye.
Karen Shortt. She is with the College Faculty Association at Vancouver Community College.